All right. So today we're going to go over hair and we're going to try our best to draw hair. Now I know there's lots of different types of hair. There's curly hair, wavy hair, straight hair. Some people have bangs, some people have short hair. It's very complicated to draw hair actually. But today we're just going to go ahead and draw two different types of hair. So what I need you to do right now is grab your materials, of course. But also, I need you to draw two eggs. The egg shapes are actually going to be a head. So it's going to start off big, and then it's going to get thinner and thinner at the bottom. So I need you to draw an egg shape. Leave room for the other one right next to the page. So that's my entire page. So yours are going to be about that size. Not super big, but not super small either. So an egg shape looks something like that. If you cannot draw an egg shape, you can draw a circle or trace a circle. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're focusing on the hair and not so much on the head shape. But if you cannot draw an egg shape, you can draw a circle. And then you can just draw a U shape at the bottom. And that can be your head shape. And then you can just erase the bottom of the circle. All right, but you should have two shapes like this. We're going to focus on one right now. Let's draw straight hair. It's going to have a bit of a wave, but not too much, because most of you have, if you're a girl or even if you're a guy, I've noticed that a lot of you do have kind of straight hair. So let's do straight hair first. First, we have to determine what kind of shapes are in the hair. So you have to draw the pieces of the hair. You have to use contour lines for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the middle part. Usually you have a middle part. Some of you part it on the side. So if it's on the side, you can do it on the side, or you can just do it as I'm doing for practice. A lot of you, or some people think that the hair, there's no volume to the hair, but there actually is some volume. So this is the head. So I need you to go ahead and draw a little line like this. And then right here, where I'm doing the other line, so I'm kind of forming a T shape, that's going to be the top of the hair, because hair has some volume. It's not just flat on your head. So I'm going to go ahead and go down because I'm going to draw the contours of the hair. I'm going to do it a little wave over here on the side, like that. It looks like Jesus hair right now. You can draw the neck. Let me just draw the neck. The neck is curved on the sides, always. Okay, usually girls have bangs or people have bangs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do some over here on the side. You can do a little piece of loose hair right here, or a little small chunk of hair. That can be some bangs. And you can do some over here on this side too. All right. We don't actually need to see this part of the head, so I'm going to go ahead and erase it. We do not need it anymore. But right now you should have the basic shape of the hair. Okay. Sometimes the ears pop out a little bit and there's like a chunk of hair in front. You can do something like that as well if you want to practice it. All right, next thing we're gonna have to do, oh, I forgot to draw the bottom of the hair. So usually it goes to a smaller point like that. So I'm gonna do that. So before we go on to draw the individual hair strands, I want you to go ahead and do this. You're gonna go ahead and shade in the hair. So most of you have dark hair, whether it's black or brown. So you're gonna shade in the hair. It's gonna be a medium value. So make sure you try your best to color inside the lines. So it looks very messy right now, but we'll clean it up and we'll make it look smooth with our napkin. All right, there we are. We have shaded in the hair. Now let's go ahead and grab our napkin. I'm gonna make it to a sharp point like this, and I'm gonna use that to smooth out my value. Okay, that should be good enough. Okay, our hair, we shaded in the hair. Now let's go ahead and use our pencil and draw the individual hair strands. Okay, so first we have to determine where the lines are flowing or where they're heading. Usually hair grows down unless you have it up in a ponytail. But I'm just gonna do the middle part right here a little bit darker. And because these are bangs, I'm gonna go ahead and follow the direction of the contour line, right? I see that they're going down, so I have to draw weighted lines that also go down. Remember, weighted lines start off heavy and then they get thinner towards the end. So I'm gonna apply a lot of pressure at the top and slowly release some pressure at the bottom, kind of like this line. So you have to keep a steady hand and you're gonna make weighted lines. And notice how it's darker at the top because I'm pressing harder, and then at the bottom it's just getting lighter. All right, let's keep going. So I'm gonna go ahead and these are still bangs, so I'm gonna make the lines go down. All right, over here the hair is gonna go ahead and start going this way, so it's gonna separate a little bit from the lines we're doing here. So it's these types of lines that I'm drawing right now are going to be a little bit more curved and instead of just going straight down. Some of them are going to be short, like these are pretty short. Like, yes, these are very short. I'm not going all the way down. I'm just making short little strokes. Okay, when we get here, when you have all this value done, you can go ahead and start making your lines a little bit longer. Because there's a wave right here, I'm going to start to do wavy lines. This one, I don't really change the line weight, but for the rest of them, you're going to try your best to do that. Right, so it kind of starts off heavy and it gets thinner. Okay, this hair is pretty straight. I must just make my lines go down. Right above the ear, there should be some dark shadows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going from the top of the ear right now, and I'm going to make my lines go up. I'm going to use weighted lines. And then they're going to be pretty short because there's always a bit of a shadow if your hair is behind your ears. Okay. You can keep going and making weighted lines. There should be some dark values under the ear as well. So right here, you're going to make a lot of short weighted lines. Now we need the rest of the hair. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to make a slight curves for my lines right here. Okay, some hair strands will be pretty light, like the one I'm pointing at. Some are going to be dark. So make sure you have different values for your hair strands. So if you see all these gray empty areas, that means we need to draw a little bit more hair. Kind of like right here, right? We need to draw more hair. So I'm going to fill that in with different lines. Some will be straight, some will be a bit wavy. At the bottom, right here, usually some little hair strands stick out. So I need you to draw individual little hairs, kind of like that. It's not really neat and just in a straight line. Usually they're kind of all over the place, unless you just got a haircut and you're taking a picture at the salon and everything's in a straight line. So okay, but I still see some empty white spaces right here. So I'm going to add a little bit of, just a bit more values and a bit more lines. Usually some hair stick out, like, so if you want to grab your pencil and make some light strands of hair on the outside, you can. They're going to be super light. They're going to be like little stray hairs. Sometimes there's little hairs, baby hairs at the top. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make some darker values right here by the bangs. So I'm going to start at the bottom and then I'm going to go ahead and go up. The thing with hair is that the highlights are usually kind of towards the middle. So at the top, there's some dark values. In the middle, there's the highlights. And then at the bottom, again, there's usually some dark shadows again. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it like that for this side. Then I'm gonna go to the other side. I'm gonna follow the same steps, right? Weighted lines, going down for the bangs. You cannot use lines that kind of just have one line weight like that because it's going to look very strange and you're going to have spaghetti hair or straw hair and that just doesn't look attractive. So these are the same types of lines that you use to draw the eyebrow hairs, except way longer. And the same types of lines we use to make our texture in the lips. Okay, I'm gonna start at, so once you get to the halfway point on the right side, you can start at the bottom again, and you can go from dark to light at the bottom. So you just have to make sure you follow the shape of the outline. So right here, the outline kind of goes to the right and it curves up. And over here, on the left side, it kind of curves to and follows this part. So you have to follow what you see. Okay, these gray empty spots need some hair. Let's go ahead and draw some hair. Yikes, her face got really small because of the hair in front of it. Okay, again, you can do, you can add a little bit of stray hairs, and those are just really light weighted lines. Stick out. I'm gonna do some over here on the top. Kind of like that. All right. So once you have something that looks like this and you have your hair strands, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to add some bit of shadows. So usually right here towards the neck of the hair, or by the neck, the hair is usually pretty dark because there's a shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my pencil and just create a dark shadow along there. I'm going to do it on the other side too. Sometimes there's a dark shadow by the ear. Sometimes there's dark shadows by the actual face, because the hair touches the face and it creates a bit of a shadow. Usually the shadows are going to be on the underside of the hair, not at the top too much, unless it's the middle part or the side part, wherever your part is. Usually that's a bit of a darker shadow. So I'm just going to make this line a little bit darker, and I'm going to make a bit of a shadow right here. I'm just going in small circles to make it darker. And I'm just going to do that on the other side too. Okay, so we should have something that looks like that, but we're not done. We have to have highlights. So actually, I have drawn a bit of highlights. Now the light areas right here, those would be some highlights, but let's bring them out a little bit. So when you're using your portrait for reference, you're just gonna have to draw the highlights where you see the shiny parts of the hair. But right here, I'm just gonna grab an eraser. Make sure it's small. I'm gonna use the top of my eraser, place it on the side so I can get a small fine point. And I'm gonna go ahead and erase and make some thin lines for the highlights. I'm actually gonna do the same kind of, I'm gonna turn my paper around, but I'm gonna do the same kind of motion that I did for the hair strands. I'm not going to add too many highlights because if you add too many, your hair is going to be white. You're going to erase all your hard work. Just a few in a few areas. Usually they're at the top of the head, the top of the hair. Over here. You're going to pick the areas where you want the highlights. Again, usually it's in the top of the hair in the front. So I'm going to do some right here. There's usually a lot by this area. So they're going to be thin marks, different line weights. Some will be short, some will be long. They're usually short at the top of the head. And then at the bottom over here where the hair is a little bit, well, where the hair grows down, it's going to be a little bit longer. The highlights will be a bit longer. Because this was a bit of a wave right here on the hair, your highlights should also follow that same pattern and be a wave. All right. So we're going to go ahead and leave that. And we're going to move on to the next thing. That way we're not so far behind. We're going to move on to the other hair. That's right. So there's your hair. I kind of like the right side better. I think it got messy over here. But there's our hair with the highlights and the individual hair strands. Now let's move on to some shorter hair. This is going to be curly hair. Curly hair can be kind of tough, but we're going to try our best. So if you need to clean up your eraser, you can clean it up. Look how dirty mine is. Okay, let's go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw some ears. Not detailed ears. I'm just going to draw the shape. They're not even completely accurate. I'm just going to draw the ears so I know where they're at. I'm going to draw the neck as well. The ears, fun fact, line up. The top of the ears kind of line up with the top of your eye. Fun fact. But I'm just going to draw ears. Again, they don't have to be detailed. I'm going to go ahead and draw. This is going to be short hair. So I'm just going to draw the sides of the hair, the short part of the hair, because at the top we're going to have some curly hair. So I'm just going to do that because I feel like a lot of you guys have this hair, I noticed. And then at the top, I'm going to go ahead and draw the top of the hair. So we should have these two lines, and then you're going to pick a spot at the top of the head. A lot of your hair we have very voluminous hair. It's not flat. So I'm going to make I'm just going to do the contour lines of the hair. Okay, it's going to be little bumps like that. And make sure you use a light line to sketch. So that can be kind of the contour lines of the hair. And then right here, I want you to go ahead and draw some little smaller bumps. And that will signify the hair that kind of touches your face. But now Well, we have to add all the details. We don't need this right here, so I'm going to erase it. All right, so now we have to draw the curls. But before we do that, we're going to do exactly what we did for this one. I'm going to go ahead and get my pencil, and I'm going to shade this top. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab my napkin, smooth it all out. So I get a nice, smooth value. I'm also going to do it on this part of the hair. Okay, so for this part of the hair, this one's pretty easy to do because all you have to do is use small little weighted lines to draw the short hair on the sides. So I'm going to get my pencil and I'm just going to draw some very small lines, but I'm going to make them close to each other so I can make this dark value. Remember, it's like hatching, right? If you have a lot of lines and they're really close to each other, well, the value will be darker. So I'm just going to do my little tiny lines like that for the short hair by the ears. So whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. So we did that for the right side. Now let's go to the other side. Right there. And we're going to draw the same types of tiny little weighted lines. And they're just going to grow straight down. Go fast when you're drawing these types of lines. Not too fast, but fast enough. Okay, so your hair, the sides of the hair are going to look something like that. Now let's zoom out a little bit again. All right, let's draw some curls at the top. So for our curls, we're going to go ahead and draw a lot of C shapes. They're going to be like little macaronis. I'm going to draw one over here. And you're basically going to draw these shapes. That's letter C. And then you're just going to close it off. Ah, it kind of looks like a moon. So you're going to do a bunch of those shapes. Individual shapes. And we're also going to do some lines on the inside, some little hair strands. So when you make this shape, it kind of looks like a moon. You're going to go ahead and make some weighted lines. They're going to be heavy at the tip right here, and they're going to get thinner towards the middle right here. And they're going to be curved. They got to follow that shape. So notice how right here I kind of just stop and they're thinner. And then you're going to go to the bottom again and you're going to make lines going up. And you can make some darker, that way you can see the hair strand. All right, so I'm going to need you all to make these types of shapes over here. And then afterwards, we can just erase a few parts, and that can be the little highlights. So let's do that right now. I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to make this little C shape. And then I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what I just did, right? Weighted lines going down. Weighted lines going up. Okay, it should actually be a pretty fast process. So once you get the hang of it, you can just go at it. Some curls will be big, some curls will be pretty small. Some curls you will do the C shape and then you're going to do another shape over here at the top. Okay, so we have 2. Now we need to fill the whole head up. Let's go. Again, change the sizes of them. Make some going in the other direction. You can make some loose curls, especially at the bottom. Actually, I'm gonna smooth this out. I'm gonna make a loose curl at the bottom right here by the face. So I'm just gonna start and do that. And I'm gonna apply the same types of lines. Like that. Some curls will look like this. It won't be a complete C shape. It might start off small and then it might get bigger over here and then you draw the C shape. So if that happens, you're going to have to do the shading over here on the underside and then go around. But the middle should always have the super light values. You're basically not going to do too many lines in there. And that can be our little highlight so we don't have to go back in and erase later on. You can do one curl, you can do the rest. Make some lines thicker, make some lines darker. And this is pretty challenging, so if you can't get it just right, it is a challenge, so don't feel bad. You can make some little hair strands sticking out, kind of like we did on the long hair. They're going to be super light, but they're just going to be curly like that. Towards the bottom, there's usually a lot of little loose hairs that you can do, like thin little lines like that. Okay, we have about half of the head done. So I guess this dude has really curly hair. They're really tight curls. But if you have curly hair and it's just looser curls, then that just means that you will draw hair that might look something like this strand. So a little bit more wavy and less defined curls. But this dude has curls. Okay, we just need this little area. Remember, you have to make some small and you have to make some big. If you make them all the same size, if you make them all in a straight line, it's gonna look weird. Oof. Okay, then I'm just gonna do little loose hairs here and there. And your hair can look something like that. And then what you can do is grab your eraser and just add a bit of highlights on some areas. Because these are really small curls, try your best to make really small little tiny lines. Also, if you see a lot of empty areas and little empty holes, you can just slightly fill those in. Lightly. Like that. So it doesn't look so weird and empty. Okay, last thing you can do is you can use your pencil, or you can use a sharper pencil, and you can go around, make some strands, individual strands, a bit darker, make them stick out a little bit more. But there you have it. Hair is very hard, but there we go.